Okay, here's a thought. If you could trade, say, 5 minutes of completely free of hay fever, or maybe a peanut allergy, would you take that deal?
Interesting proposition.
Because, the science might actually be getting up closer.
Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. We know there's just a flood of information out there. So our job today really is to pull out the essential bits, the analysis you need to get you instantly up to speed.
Yeah, we've sifted through a pretty dense stack of sources this week. It's a really fascinating mix covering health breakthroughs, lifestyle shifts, even how high-end consumers are spending, all aggregated, by the way, by the news aggregator podcast, consumers.app.
We're going to start with some truly revolutionary medical tech, then pivot to the complexity of chronic pain, look at what we eat and why, and finally we'll break down the surprising economic clout of affluent travelers.
All right, let's jump in. First up, mRNA technology. This is sourced from valleyvanguardonline.com, and it's about mRNA moving beyond just vaccines for infections.
Right, into chronic conditions, specifically allergies. And the key thing to understand here isn't just the mRNA itself, it's the delivery. Researchers from the Perelman School of Medicine and Cincinnati Children's, they're using what's called mRNA-LNP therapy.
LNP, lipid nanoparticle.
Exactly. Think of it as a tiny microscopic fat bubble. Its job is crucial. Protect that delicate mRNA molecule until it gets inside the right immune cells to deliver its instructions.
And those instructions are basically telling the immune system to chill out about allergens.
It's essentially, yes.
Yeah.
To reshape the response. The goal isn't just masking symptoms like antihistamines do. It's trying to prevent those dangerous, sometimes life-threatening systemic reactions and inflammation at the source.
So it's about retraining the immune system.
Precisely. And they've had success in preclinical studies with mice, mind you. But it proves the concept holds real potential as a way to maybe permanently treat allergies.
Okay, but why is this gaining so much traction now?
Well, if you look behind the curtain at the funding and the patents, it's revealing.
Yeah.
You have the big players, obviously, like Moderna and BioNTech, who really pushed things forward during the pandemic.
Right.
But interestingly, the data suggests that universities and public research organizations, PROs, they provided something like 27% of the foundational science, the really basic knowledge that these therapies are built on.
So a lot of taxpayer or publicly funded research laid the groundwork.
It points to that classic public-private partnership dynamic. A huge chunk of the initial discovery happened in non-commercial labs. But, regardless of where the idea came from, the biggest hurdle remains delivery of that LNP package.
Getting it right.
Getting it right. Targeting only the necessary cells without causing unwanted effects elsewhere. That's the challenge.
So for someone listening who, dreads spring every year or has a kid with a severe food allergy, what's the bottom line?
The bottom line is hope for something beyond just management. This research opens the door to potentially eliminating these allergies. And if it worked in humans for allergies, the thinking is it could be adapted relatively quickly for other chronic conditions, like, say, celiac disease.
Wow. Okay.
Of course, the next steps are critical. Human safety trials, obviously. But also figuring out the dosage, like how many allergens can you target in one shot and how long does the protection last? Is it one shot and done, or do you need boosters? Lots of questions still.
We're moving from just managing symptoms to maybe talking about cures. That's huge.
It really is a potential paradigm shift.
Okay, that idea of managing chronic conditions, or maybe not managing them anymore, that actually leads us nicely into our next topic. This one's from www.azom.com, and it tackles a massive global health issue. Chronic back pain.
Oh, it's enormous. We're talking roughly 16 million adults just in the U.S. That's like 8% of the population suffering from this. And globally, it's the single biggest cause of disability, period.
And it's notoriously tricky to treat, right? Why is that?
Well, a big part of the problem is that it often doesn't have one single easy-to-point-to cause. It's usually a mix of things. Maybe some degenerative disc disease, could be nerve compression, arthritis plays a role, lifestyle factors.
Complicated.
Very. And the traditional treatments, while they might help initially, often don't provide lasting release because they tend to focus only on the physical structure, the spine itself.
But recent research is showing it's more than just the spine, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is where it gets fascinating from a neuroscience perspective. Studies are showing that chronic low back pain actually leads to significant changes in the brain's functional connectivity, how different parts of the brain talk to each other.
Changes how?
We're seeing decreased connectivity, less communication in really key areas, like the thalamus that's a major hub for processing sensory information, including pain signals, and the hippocampus, which is involved in learning, memory, even emotion.
Wait a second. So if the pain itself is physically rewiring the brain, changing how the brain works, does that mean the chronic pain isn't just a physical signal from the back anymore? It's become a brain issue too.
That's exactly the implication. Chronic pain often becomes a problem of that nerve-to-brain connection itself. The brain can kind of get stuck in a pain loop, learning to perceive pain long after the initial injury might have healed. And that neurological rewiring, that's a big reason why just focusing on the physical source often isn't enough.
Which totally explains the push towards more innovative approaches then, things like neuromodulation.
Right. Spinal cord stimulation is one example. It uses electrical signals to essentially block or interfere with the pain signals traveling up the spinal cord to the brain. Researchers are even looking at stimulating the brain directly in some cases.
But it's not just about high-tech devices. There's also a renewed focus on a more sort of holistic view.
Yes, the biopsychosocial model. And it's crucial to understand this isn't just a checklist, biopsychosocial. It's about integrating these factors, meaning effective treatment has to consider the biological side, the actual physical issue, if there is one. The psychological side, things like stress, how someone copes with pain, their beliefs about pain, and the social side, their support system, work environment, things like that.
So for someone listening who's dealing with this day in, day out, what does this practically mean?
It means treatment should probably go beyond just pills or physical therapy alone. It strongly supports using psychosocial approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT alongside medical treatments.
Right, addressing the mental and emotional component.
Exactly. And critically, it underscores the need for personalized plans. Grouping patients based on their specific mix of biopsychosocial factors seems to lead to much better long-term results than a one-size-fits-all approach.
Okay, let's shift gears from how our bodies feel to what we're putting into them. Ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. We're pulling from content mentioned in Science Daily here.
All right, UPFs. The term itself comes from the NOVA classification system, developed back in 2009. And what's key about NOVA is that it doesn't primarily classify foods based on nutrients like fat or sugar content.
It's about how they're made.
Precisely. It focuses on the degree of industrial processing. UPFs are typically formulations of industrial ingredients, often designed to be, frankly, hyper-palatable, super tasty, easy to eat, convenient, and very profitable to produce. Think frozen pizzas, many packaged snacks, sugary cereals, diet sodas.
And the concern isn't just that they might lack nutrients, it's how they affect us neurologically.
That's a major part of the research, yes. Some studies suggest UPFs can trigger the brain's reward pathways in a way that's disturbingly similar to addictive substances. MRI scans actually show this heightened response in the brain.
Wow.
And there was a really significant study back in 2019 published in Cell Metabolism. It was tightly controlled. They had people eat either a diet of UPFs or a diet of unprocessed foods for 2 weeks, then switch.
And both diets were matched. For calories, sugar, fat, fiber.
Matched very carefully, yes. But the results were stark. When people were on the UPF diet, they consistently ate more, about 500 extra calories per day, and they gained weight. On the unprocessed diet, they actually lost a bit of weight.
500 calories more, even though the nutrients were matched. How?
The study found the UPF diet messed with hunger hormones. It increased levels of ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and decreased levels of PYY, a hormone that signals fullness. So their own bodies were basically telling them to eat more and stopping them from feeling satisfied.
It's like the processing itself hijacks your appetite regulation.
That's the hypothesis. But it's fair to say the NOVA classification itself isn't without its critics. Some argue it's too broad, maybe poorly defined. Is the problem the processing itself, or just that many processed foods happen to be high in sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats and lack fiber? The debate is ongoing.
Okay, but adding another layer here, how does this interact with other lifestyle factors like sleep?
That's a really interesting connection. Recent research out of Taiwan highlighted this. They found the short sleep duration significantly increases the odds of obesity by about 21%.
Okay, we know sleep is important for weight.
Right. But here's the kicker. That risk was compounded, made much worse by high consumption of UPFs. And this combined effect was especially strong in younger adults.
So not enough sleep plus eating lots of UPFs is a particularly bad combination.
Seems that way. It really emphasizes that we need to think about lifestyle interventions holistically. It's not just diet or sleep. And maybe these interventions need to be tailored differently for different age groups.
Okay, so from the height of industrial food processing, let's swing the pendulum way back. Let's talk about ghee, or clarified butter. This is based on insights from the Times of India.
Ah, yes. Ghee. In Ayurveda, the traditional Indian system of medicine, ghee is really highly regarded. It's considered a functional food.
Functional meaning?
Meaning it's believed to have health benefits beyond basic nutrition. Ayurveda credits it with improving digestion, boosting immunity, even enhancing cognitive function. It's also used in detoxification practices like bichakarma.
How does that work, the detox part?
The idea is that because ghee is a fat, it can help bind to fat-soluble toxins in the body, facilitating their removal. That's the traditional thinking.
And does modern science back any of this up?
Well, the research is still somewhat limited compared to, say, olive oil. But yes, there is some scientific support, particularly for ghee's anti-inflammatory properties. This is often attributed to its butyrate content.
Butyrate. That's a short-chain fatty acid.
Exactly. It's produced by gut bacteria when they ferment fiber, but it's also present in butter fat, especially ghee. And butyrate is known to be beneficial for gut health and reducing inflammation.
Okay, so tradition says it's great. Some science backs up anti-inflammatory properties. But modern nutrition advice usually says, limit butter and saturated fats, right? There seems to be a conflict.
That's the core tension, absolutely. Tradition versus current lipid science. Ghee is rich in components that can help absorb certain nutrients. But because it's almost pure fat and mostly saturated fat,
moderation is key.
Moderation is the modern mantra, yes. Typically, guidelines suggest maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons a day. Go beyond that regularly, and the concern is potential weight gain and, importantly, potentially raising LDL cholesterol, the bad kind.
So it's about how you use it. Maybe a small amount for flavor or specific purposes rather than your main cooking fat.
That seems to be the balanced view. Interestingly, the source material even adds another layer of nuance, suggesting that ghee made from the milk of Jersey cows might have higher levels of some beneficial lipids and flavor compounds compared to ghee from Holstein milk.
Even the cow breed matters.
It seems it might. Detail matters.
Okay, we've gone from biotech cures to chronic pain neuroscience to UPFs and ancient fats. Let's shift gears completely now and look at the economy, specifically through the lens of travel. This is sourced from traveldailymedia.com, and it's about affluent travelers.
Yeah, this is a really powerful demographic economically. We're talking about households with an income of $150,000 or more per year.
Okay.
Now, get this. While these affluent households make up only about 22% of all travelers in the U.S., they account for nearly half, almost 50% of all the money spent on travel experiences.
Wow, that's a massive skew. 22% of people driving 50% of the spend.
A huge skew. And their spending isn't just on, booking a basic flight and hotel. It's heavily focused on luxury accommodations, customized or bespoke travel packages, unique experiences they can't get elsewhere, privacy, comfort.
It sounds like investment spending almost, not just vacation spending.
That's a good way to put it. And the global market size confirms this isn't a small niche. The luxury travel market was valued at, around $890 billion in 2023?
Billion with a B.
With a B. And it's projected to more than double to reach over $2.1 trillion by 2035. That's a compound annual growth rate of about 7.4%. Significant growth.
And North America is a big piece of that pie.
A very big piece. It accounted for just over 30% of that global luxury market revenue in 2023. So, yeah, this is a major economic force.
Does this pattern, this sort of high value, maybe more considered spending, show up in their other purchasing habits?
It seems to. If you look at broader online shopping behavior for this group, they tend to buy more expensive items, and they buy them more frequently than average. But there's a pattern.
Okay.
More expensive purchases tend to happen after longer time gaps since their last big purchase. It suggests a more deliberate, planned approach. They're not necessarily impulse buying these big-ticket items or luxury trips. It looks more like strategic expenditure, viewing these things as significant investments in their lifestyle or experiences.
Fascinating. So we've really covered a lot of ground today.
We certainly have.
From potential biotech cures for allergies, digging into the complex brain science of chronic pain, the sort of neurological pull of ultra-processed foods, the ancient wisdom and modern science around ghee.
All the way to the massive, calculated economic impact of high-end travel. It paints quite a picture of health, lifestyle, and consumer behavior today.
It really does. A huge thank you to everyone listening for joining us on this deep dive, exploring the research aggregated by consumers.app.
Yes. Thank you for your time and curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll leave you with maybe one final thought to chew on.
Right.
If these advances we talked about, like mRNA therapy, actually manage to eliminate major food allergies, and if these new personalized biopsychosocial approaches
really should eradicate.
Think about the hundreds of billions of dollars currently spent just managing those conditions globally.
Right, the economic burden is huge.
Exactly. So how would redirecting all that capital, hundreds of billions, make it? I mean, healthcare systems and maybe even the global economy as a whole, something to mull over.